All right. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Alex Helfand, Education Coordinator for the Salty Dogs, and welcome to the second in a series of talks we've got going in what I'm calling the Winter 2026 series. Just a couple of quick announcements. If you're thinking about lithium as a future upgrade, that's our talk that'll be happening next week and on January 26th. And our speaker tonight, Bill Cullen, is going to be back in, I think it's 2 weeks, on February 2nd. And we're going to be talking about diesel engines and how not to be quite so threatened by them.
Yeah,
And then we have a discussion on alternatives in provisioning, and that'll be on February 9th, followed by a February 23rd talk on heavy weather sailing. And just a teaser, we've got two talks in March already lined up. The dates haven't been announced yet. One's going to be about diving from your boat, and we're going to be talking about alternatives to beyond just snorkeling and some very interesting options that you have. And the other one is I got a request recently about putting together a talk on insurance and what to do, particularly when you're in foreign waters and your boat is involved in an incident. As particularly, I've heard there's been a number of collisions between charter boats and salty dog boats. And the question is, what do I do? How do I get a response? So we'll have one of our insurance underwriters talking, as well as an attorney who can give you some advice and direction on what to do in the event that happens to you. So these are all coming up, and we got some others as well in the March, April timeframe that I'll be announcing in the near future. So tonight, we have part two of our talk about gadgets, and Bill Cullen, who spoke with us in, I guess it was December, is going to carry on and talk about other parts, the things that we didn't get a chance to talk about in our last discussion. If you haven't heard that webinar, that is available as a recording, so feel free to go back and look at it. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bill. Once again, put your questions in the chat box, and we'll be sure to get to all of them at the end of the talk. Take it away, Bill.
okay, thanks, Alex. Hey, I'm well aware of the football game tonight, and I guarantee you we're not going to drag on into that or anything like that. So this will be short and sweet if we can make it that way. And this is part two. We did probably 50 gadgets in the last presentation in December. Just to remind you, the one before that was about tying up your boat and docking and things like that. And take a look at that one. That one was about mooring and med mooring and all, but it talks about using the, believe it or not, the Pythagorean theorem and on figuring out how much slack you should have in your dock lines. For instance, here's a little example I used. A 3 foot tide and a 10 foot dock line only needs 5 inches of slack in it. It's science, it's math. I have a website called the Book of Sail that supports a lot of these ideas and gadgets. And you can see the second tab there is Great Boat Gadgets and Accessory Ideas. And you can find a lot of these gadgets there, most all of them. I need to update it with a couple of newer things, and I'll do that shortly. So you're welcome to go there and see this and a lot of the other things. So we talked about 25 good things to have aboard last time, and those were some of the items we talked about. We went through some galley gadgets. Probably the best one was the Ziploc bag for the ice. They just work marvelously if you have an ice pick. Take a look at that one. Lingerie bags for the fridge. We talked about that. One of my favorites was called trash lures. And this is making fishing lures out of what you find in your trash. It's a lot of fun, and they work. We talked about refilling those green propane bottles. And I was at Walmart and I found this, something that I hadn't seen before. They're actually called refillable propane bottles. So it's the same size as those green ones that have gone way up in price. And they sell a little kit to go with it that you can buy a valve, but you can buy a less expensive valve than that. I think even at West Marine or Amazon. And I talk about that valve on my website. But now they officially have a refillable one because a lot of the green ones say, hey, don't refill this, even though I've been doing it for over a decade. But that's something new. Okay, so there's more than what we had last time, and here's some of the things we're going to talk about. I'm going to start with a simple one. Remember, I'm a simple minded guy, but a silicone wedding band. Uh, I know a lot of people have had hurt fingers from wearing a metal wedding band, and I know a lady that lost a diamond out of her wedding ring on her sailboat. And the silicone is what all the millennials wear now anyway, but they're a little bit perhaps safer than a metal ring on your finger. You remember Jimmy Fallon fell in his kitchen and ripped off his finger in his kitchen with a wedding ring. So maybe a safer thing to have. They're fairly attractive, more comfortable. They don't dig into your hand if you've got a rope in your hand that's got a lot of pressure on it. Silicone wedding bands. You can get them for $2 off the internet, or you can go to your jewelry store and pay $20 for the same thing. Your choice. Okay, recycle bag. We didn't talk about this, but this is a great idea to have on your boat. And if you don't have one, I would encourage you to get it so that when you get to a place you can recycle, you can take this bag down there and dump it in. We're talking about, the plastic salad dressing bottles, the beer cans, things like that. So we have one on our boat made out of a mesh material. This one was custom sewn like a bag. But if you just get a beach bag or the net bag that your fins came in, you could use just about anything. We crush our cans before we put them in there. That's usually a beer can we're crushing, and we usually can get quite a few in there that way. But it's a nice thing to have, and it's a good thing for our environment to, of course, recycle. There it is. Pretty simple thing to have. A couple of grommets in it, and you can tie it to your stern rail. I have a friend that took one of these bags that she made recycling, and she made a second one to put all her fins in and dive masks. When she comes out of the water, they have this on the stern of their Catalina 350. They just put all of their swimming gear, and actually it has snaps on it. So when they're going to go diving, they just unsnap it and throw it in the dinghy. When they come back, they hang it up and they get their shower on the stern there and they wash everything off right in the bag. Kind of a nice idea. Once again, any mesh bag would probably suit you for that. And she made this one for me. I use a lot of clothespins all the time on my boat, not only for the reminders that we talked about. That was the very first gadget we had on the last one, but just a little simple clothespin bag hung on the lifelines like this, because we're always taking stuff out there and hanging them up. And this is just a nice, convenient thing to have. We don't have to run to the cockpit or down below to get those. This is something for the galley I didn't mention last time. Inside your fridge, one of these little circulation fans actually helps out a lot. It moves the air around and makes the box more evenly cold, but it seems to help run it fewer hours. And I don't know really what the magic is of that, other than it's sucking the air around or spinning the air around a little bit better. But my refrigerator runs less when I have this fan running inside it. They involve two D-cell batteries, and they run for 30 days on that. It's a very quiet, slow speed little fan. The RV stores sell these. Of course, you can find them on Amazon online and everything. And they work. They really work and do a good job. Okay, communication and entertainment. Let's talk about that. Last time we talked about Zoleo, Spot, and InReach, and those were offshore satellite communicators, and also their SOS devices like an ePerb, only a little bit different. And last time I mentioned, if you have an iPhone 14 or newer, that also is a satellite-enabled device that you can do an SOS from, and you can text when you're out of cell range. So I was doing a delivery recently, and I was totally out of cell range, and I got a text message. And so iPhone, Apple is going to give us free satellite communication while offshore with our iPhones, 14 and up, over the next 2 years, they said. And here's what it looks like if you have your phone. There's a little satellite-looking device. So when you're offshore or in the mountains or anywhere you don't have cell phone, you'll see that little satellite thing, and here's messages and all the different things you can do. And this is what your phone icon would look like. And it may tell you, wait for get your phone in better reception or something like that. Anyway, it works. Just wanted to point that out. Speaking of signals, in lieu of Starlink, if you have Starlink, you might not need this, but we have always had a Wi-Fi signal receiver range booster. So what this does, and the way we use it, is it can grab a Wi-Fi signal from a mile away. So if we're in Marsh Harbor, let's say, and we've been to the bar there, and they had free Wi-Fi in the bar, and we bought a beer and we got the password. When we get to our boat a quarter mile away, we can turn our computer on with this Wi-Fi range booster, and we can see that restaurant, and we've got the password, and we can just use their Wi-Fi while sitting in Anchorage a mile away or a half mile away. This is relatively inexpensive. I think I paid $29 for this one. It's probably $39 now, but I've been using it for years. Now that I hook into my laptop, and I can do everything I need to do on the laptop with that. Now, if you want to use it for your other devices, like your cell phone or your pad or anything like that, you'd need to get this, which is a router. So there's the Alpha, the newer looking Alpha range booster, okay? And that plugs into your computer, or you buy this router and you plug it into the router. Now you're broadcasting your signal to your iPhone, or your iPad, or whatever devices you have, and anybody can use it on the boat or within range. Now, safety wise, of course, this is a Wi-Fi coming from a restaurant, so I would have a VPN or something like that. You just need to use common sense and be careful. But that's one way to pick up a free Wi-Fi signal from a distance away and use it. Communication, if you don't have boat cards, if you're new to boating, we all use these, and I get mine from Vistaprint, and it's like $15 for 500 cards mailed to you, including shipping. And if you use their artwork and so forth and only print on one side, it's that price. If you want to use your own artwork, picture your boat, picture you, that kind of thing, I think it's only $5 more. But not a bad way to, when you meet somebody, of course, you want to be able to, hand them a card and say, give us a call or email us that. Okay, a couple of other things. If you're going out for a month or so, or even longer, there's something called Informed Delivery by the United States Postal Service. It's free. You just go on that website, informeddeliveryups.com, and you sign up for it. And what they do is they take a picture of every piece of your mail, and they email a copy of that to you. So you can look at, here's a picture of what it looks like. This is in an email. It's very low resolution, I want to say. So it's not a large, doesn't take any gigabytes. It's megabytes, if anything. It's not even kilobytes. So you get to look at all the envelopes that you're getting. If you get in a package, it tells you get a package, tells you if the package has been delivered, all that kind of thing. You can also communicate through this website with your postal carrier. So you can contact him and say, that package, would you mind delivering it to the next door neighbor, or take it back, or hold it? Now, even when they hold your mail for 30 days, you can have this service. Little short story. I was in the Bahamas. My son was in the house. We were looking at the mail that was coming to the house, and he was, just gathering it and throwing it in a box. And I got a letter from the IRS. And I was in the Bahamas, and it said you had 30 days to do something. And so I had my son take a picture of it, and emailed me the picture, and I was able to communicate with him, took care of the issue. So that's how I used it one time in a very good way. But you just see what mail's coming, and you need somebody to send you a copy of something, that's how you can do it. Informed delivery, like I said, it's free. If you want single sideband, and you want to listen to Chris Parker, which I really like listening to Chris, no matter what. With my coffee in the morning, sitting in the cockpit, I love listening to him. But if you don't have a single sideband unit, you can buy a little portable receiver like this. You can find them on eBay for $50, or you can buy them new for $150. I mentioned two on my website. The Grundig is a good one, and the Sony's a good one. And, like any single sideband, some days you really hear it crystal clear, like they're sitting next to you, and other days it's like you can hardly understand what's being said. But it works. I listened to Chris 1,000 times on this thing, and it works all the way down to the Caribbean, of course, wherever your single sideband is, wherever he's broadcasting to, you can pick him up on this. You can also pick up all the other things on single sideband that people with a full, unit have. You can only listen though, so you can listen to the various nets that are on in the morning and so forth. And there I am writing down Chris's comments in the cockpit. I want to listen to what he has to say, not just look at Windy or Windfinder and so forth. And of course, you can go on his website and see it. It's always good to have stuff on your boat that has two purposes, right? So here's something called a fender step. So it's a boat fender, and you can use it as a boat fender, hang it off the side like a regular fender. Or if you're on a floating dock and it's a big step up to your deck, you can use it as a step. So it's a good thing to have. They make another one too, like this. I haven't found this one handy, but I saw it on a boat, and it's got 3 steps going up, and you just walk right up that thing up into your boat. Kind of a neat thing to have. That can also is a fender. It's a soft material and acts like a fender, and of course won't scratch your boat or anything like that. Nice things to have. A step up. Let's talk about waterproofing. We all have canvas. After a while, maybe it doesn't shed the water, it gets a leak or a drip. What I do is I soak the whole thing with a hose, and I get underneath and I take pictures with my phone of where the leaks are, so that when it's dry, the next time I'm down there, I know where to waterproof it. Of course, Sunbrella makes the 303 fabric guard. But there's also other products that work very well. Scotchgard Outdoor, Kiwi Camp Dry, which is one I really like. And there's a price difference. These two also, the last two are aerosol versus the you pump it one. But the fabric guard's around $20, and these two are around $11, $12. You can get it at Home Depot, a lot of places like that, hardware stores. But they're all silicone material. They all do the same thing. And I think the Scotchgard and the Kiwi Camp Dry, I actually think they last longer than the 303. That's just what I think. When you put them on, you get the fabric so that it looks dark or damp, and then you got enough on there, and it just beads up like crazy. You'll be amazed. You can also use this on your clothes, maybe your jeans or your foul weather jacket or something like that, and re-waterproof them. This one's at Walmart. It's only $7.98. And I've not tried this one, so I can't really speak for it, but they say they give you 50% more than those other guys for 50% of the price or something. So it's not a bad thing. It's at Walmart, and it probably works very well too. They show it on shoes, umbrellas, canvas, everything. Dinghy saddle tank. I used to have one of these on my dinghy. It didn't fit my new dinghy, so I sold it with the old dinghy. But it's an up and out of the way. It hangs on the transom, and it's a fuel tank for the engine. This one's 3.5 gallons. They make a bigger one for bigger dinghies, but 3.5 gallons is pretty good. And a little close up, I think I could show a better shot of it. There it is back there. It has some hooks that go over your transom. If you'll notice, there's a ring for lifting the dinghy, and you have to make sure that it'll work on your dinghy transom, which it did on this Carib that I had. I just loved it. Nothing in the way on the floor. It's up out of the way. Easy to carry, 3.5 gallon, not very heavy. And I got a lot of inquiries. What is that? Where do you get that? So it's something you might want. They used to be that you couldn't get these in the United States. And I don't know whether for safety or whatever reason. This brand is called Dinghy Mate, and used to buy them in the Caribbean. And they're not cheap, but I think they're worth it. I think they're a wonderful thing to have and use. And mine just happened to fit snugly right down in this space on the back of my boat on the transom where the swim ladder was. It just fit right down in there nicely. And you can see the little brackets that hook onto the transom. Dinghy insurance for $10. I talk about this in a little talk I give about cruising. And what it is 2 painters, a second painter, spend $10. I can tell you that the people that have 2 painters don't lose their dinghies, ever. The people with 1 painter, you hear about it all the time. And in these talks I give sometimes, I say in the audience, who here has had a dinghy float away from them? I raise my hand, and I swear I get 30% of the crowd. And you've been places, you hear about people losing their dinghies and so forth. That's because they have 1 painter. And so I highly recommend that. Now, this material that you see here, this dark green material, it actually floats, but it looks like and feels like braided nylon. It does. It feels like your jib sheets and your halyards, and it looks that way too. It's very nice, but it floats because it's really polypropylene. It's called diamond braid. You can buy 100 feet of it at Home Depot for $6 or $7 and make a couple of painters for your dinghy. So I use those. Been using them for a while. Of course, you always want a dinghy painter that floats, right? If you only have an analog voltmeter, you can get these little things for under $5. You plug them into your cigarette lighter and it shows the voltage of your battery bank that you have on. Security and safety. Hey, you want a lockup cable for your dinghy, and I'm going to suggest one possibility for you is old lifelines. And this particular one had a swedged in end on one end. On the other end, it had something, that I couldn't use. And so I had to cut it off. And then I bought one of these things. I don't know what you call them, a Nycopress sleeve or something. And you bend the wire, put it back in there and smash it down. And you've got a 25-foot lockup cable for free practically. And, what people always say when you're tying your dinghy up at the dock, don't tie it up tight, leave it loose so people can get in. Well, if you're locking it up with a little tiny 6-foot chain or something, it's not going to work. But this 25-foot cable will work in that instance. Also, if you get on a beach and there's a dock near there, you can run a cable there. And also, if you do leave your dinghy in the water behind your boat at night, if you're sleeping in the boat, particularly in the stern, you'll hear the dinghy hitting the boat at night and it'll wake you up. So if it's sitting back 20 feet, you won't hear it. And what I do with this is take the little end, I run it through the handle on my motor and maybe the handle on the gas tank, I don't know. And then I run it through itself, as you see the middle picture there, right there. And then I run the bigger end to wherever I'm going to lock it up. You get the picture. You can run it through something, make a loop, and then take it somewhere and lock it up. It really works well for free. So when your neighbors are getting new lifelines, grab them. Or go to the rigger and say, hey, you got any of these? Next time you do one, save them for me. You can also make dinghy lifts with them. And by the way, they have a Nycopress in Home Depot, and same with West Marine. In this particular instance, I bought a what do we call a ring, a stainless steel ring. It must have been 2 inches across or something like that. And I connected all the cables to that ring to make a lifting harness. So all this lifting harness is made out of old lifelines. Really works well. And like I said, I think to make that one, I actually went to Home Depot, took everything in the store, went down the alley and just made it all right in their store. And they didn't mind. This is a good gadget to have. Now, a lot of you probably have high water alarms in your bilge, and it's a float switch, and it's hooked up to your batteries, and it's hooked up to some sort of an alarm or a siren. And that's the way to do it. That's a good thing to have. But this is a poor man's version of that. It's called a water overflow alarm. I guess people up north use this in their basement for their washing machines and upstairs for the tub. It's a very, very sensitive thing for water. If there's any water that touches that sensor, the 120 dB alarm will go off. This works off a 12-volt battery, which will last over a year. And you can put this down in your bilge. I've got a couple of pictures here for you. That's the sensor on the one, and there's mine right there. That's sitting in the bilge. Actually, it sits under my sink in my galley now because it comes with long enough cables, as you can see there. But you want to wire tie it somewhere a little bit higher up in your bilge than your bilge pump, and this thing will go off pretty easily. So don't put anywhere where you get splashed or anything because it's sensitive. But that will cost you like $8-9, and you can have that rest assurance until maybe you can get the float switch and the alarm and do the whole 9 yards if that's what you want to do. And here's another one. This is a pull pin alarm. Kind of the same thing, very similar. Of course, people who walk and joggers use these for safety. You just pull the pin and an alarm goes off. I've had these on my boat for a while. I have one rigged if I want to. If I'm in a dicey area, I can rig it across my cockpit floor, piece of monofilament tied to the pin. So if somebody comes on the boat, they're not going to see the monofilament. They're going to trip the wire, an alarm will go off, and they'll beat it. But a better use, and I actually did this one time when we had break-ins at our marina, we rigged it to our sliding hatch so that when the guy cuts your lock off and he slides the hatch back, the alarm goes off. So I kind of have a sketch here for you where you'd brace the alarm down here through a thing here. So if that hatch were to slide, that pin down here would get pulled out of it. When you come on your own boat, you want to have it so that you can slide the hatch back enough to get the top board out so you can unhook it so it doesn't go off on you. But they really work. And we had an instance after I told everybody about this where the thief came back, slid the hatch, alarm went off, somebody was on their boat, they yelled, the guy went running. So it's a poor man's burglar alarm too for your hatch. A nightlight for the head's a nice thing to have. There's all kinds available, as you know. This one's kind of neat. It's as seen on TV. It's called the bowl light. It fits down in your toilet and illuminates the toilet at night. Kind of a neat thing. Now, I actually hang mine most of the time on the towel rack, but it can do that as well. And then, there's all kinds of things available for that. I just love to have a small, not very bright, I might add, motion sensor light in the head for at night for people. Mini scuba tank. This is for maybe emergency work under the boat, or maybe your anchor's stuck in rocks and you can't quite free dive it. This is small, lightweight, easy to carry. It gives you 20 minutes underwater, and I would say that's around your boat. So if you have a prop problem, you need to change the prop, you need to put a zinc on. 20 minutes is more than enough time. You can use it to clean the bottom of your boat down below the water line and down around the keel. Not very expensive. You can find them on eBay, you can find them on Craigslist, or you can find them at the scuba store. And there are some backpacks available. Mantis Marine sells a very, very nice one. And it's just something I've always kept on my boat for emergencies. And I've almost had to use it one time on the anchor. You do have to have a regulator with this, a regular scuba regulator, but it doesn't have to be a very complex one. So a mini scuba tank for, I would say, emergencies or cleaning the bottom of your boat. They make these too. I've never used one of these, but these are a lot less time. Obviously, they're a lot smaller, but I understand they can work and give you enough time to maybe go down and fix your prop or get whatever's on it off, that sort of thing. Just a comment here almost. This isn't really a gadget, but if you've walked on some islands with a lot of limestone, you know that they can be sharp and dangerous. And you always want to have closed-toed sandals like you see over here and you see in the picture on the right there. Instead of flip-flops like that, you got to have closed-toed sandals and closed-toed heel. Closed heel is also a nice thing to have too. So if you're a cruiser, think about that rather than just your flip-flops. Good on the boat too. If you've ever stubbed a toe on something, these will protect your toes a little bit on the boat. Good thing to have. I have a collection of sandals. If anybody needs one, if you've lost one, I call it the Lost Souls. And maybe I'll have this at one of the Salty Dogs meetings someday or something, but kind of funny thing. Lastly, I want to say I was on my boat one time with some friends and I asked them to fix something. And they said, have you got a cordless drill? And I said, yes, I do. And I handed them this and they looked at it and they were stunned. I don't think they had ever seen one or knew they existed. But yeah, kind of a joke. But if you don't have your cordless power drill, one of these things is nice to throw down in the boat. I don't keep my one cordless DeWalt drill with all the batteries on my boat. I keep it at home. When I cruise locally, I do have this on board so I can still drill a hole if I wanted to. And just kind of a funny thing, a cordless drill. Hey, there's a lot of other resources besides my website for some of these ideas. Bill Seifert on offshore sailing has some good ideas. And, he and I actually came up independently with a couple of the same ones, which I think was interesting. We're talking about Carolyn Shearlock. She has some great ideas on her website. The toilet the toilet seat chocks is the one I can think of that both of them thought of also. Things that work, Sail Magazine, 100 Fast and Easy Boat Improvements, just a couple of books that you might want to also look for resources. I'm going to end with that and answer any questions that you have. It was a shorter one than last time. But if you have any questions, holler at me. Otherwise, let's get ready for the football game.
Well, Bill, thank you very much. I'll start off because I came up with a couple of questions. So I've used the Informed Delivery. I also used the post office box. Have you used any other mail services?
I have not. No, and I know that there's the one near Jacksonville and Green Cove Springs. Help me, and I forget the name of it. They're going to kill me, but they're the one a lot of people use, and they just cater to cruisers only. And they're out of Green Cove Springs, Florida. And I can't remember the name of it, Saint something. I got to know them through the Seven Seas Cruising Association. They're a sponsor there for them, and a good company, but they work well.
Okay. And then my next question, and now I'm starting to see we're getting a couple from the other participants. Does the single sideband receiver have any kind of a scan mode so that you can just let it look for good signals?
The Grundig Yacht Boy 400 that I have on my website that I had a picture of does not. But you can jump from station to station yourself, go to the
Uh-huh.
last one. And you can also punch in the number. So like Chris Parker would be 4504 or something, 4504, enter. You get it right away. You're not sitting there with a knob. Well, there is a fine tuning knob, that you can use to get a really clear signal on that Grundig. I think the Sony too. But not that mine might, but I've never used that. I usually know who I want to listen to, um, and know what time they're going to be on and tune in and wait for them to come on.
Yeah, I think it's a nice thing to have on the boat. We don't have single sideband, and I wasn't going to go out and get a whole transceiver, so
Yeah.
this might be a very good option.
It can be fun, the coconut telegraphs on there, all these guys chit chatting in the morning.
Mhm.
Fun.
Right. So I would also put a plug in on that fender step you talked about. We have a three, maybe even it's four step. It's a blue fender step. And it's really great if you have a catamaran and you're at a dock, the
Yeah.
fixed dock or where you basically are unable to step off reasonably. It's saved us a lot of times.
Yeah. I guess they could be used, some of them for the dinghy too, getting up on the boat
Yeah,
from the side,
yeah,
that kind of thing, if that's what you have.
for sure. And then my next question was that dinghy made fuel tank that sat on the stern. Can you lock it to the boat or how does it secure?
No, it doesn't have a way to lock it.
Okay. So that's maybe the only thing one needs to be cautious about, particularly if
Yeah.
you're in the Caribbean where they like to develop feet.
Yeah.
And my last question is, can you get the head night light with a red light or is it only white?
Um, the one I talk about on my website, it does have red, yes. It's a very low power, and that was the point of me, you know, bringing that one to people's attention. The folks that buy their headlamp at REI and then come on the boat, and you talk to them, and they turn, and you're blinded. That's it. You're done.
Right.
And you need something that's like 2 lumens or something. And yeah, that little one I talk about that also has a whistle on it. It is white, flashing white, red, flashing red, or flashing white SOS. It has all those settings on it. I'd show it
Okay.
to you, but I packed it. It's in my bag. I'm going tomorrow. It's in my bag. I'm already ready to go, and I got it.
All right. So then somebody put down St. Brendan's Isle. I'm not quite
That's it.
sure.
That's
Okay,
the
that's
one
the
in
name of the
Green
mail
Cove Spring.
service. Right.
Yeah.
And then DL said they've also used, I guess, iPostal through Staples. And that's another option if
Oh,
people are
okay.
looking for it. And I see one other question, I think. Yeah. How do you crush the empty cans?
Pardon me?
I
Oh,
said,
how do
how
I
do you,
crush cans?
yeah.
Well, if they're cans that are steel, like I use a red bean can tonight, I can't crush those. And by the way, those don't burn in a fire either. I mean, they're just incredible. Out in the deep blue ocean, I don't mind putting those in the ocean in 6,000 feet of water in the middle of the Atlantic because I know they're going to rust and go away. But like a Miller Lite beer can, I squeeze it in the middle, I twist it a little bit and smash it down in my own hands. And there's a way to get all the beer, all the last little drip out of the Coke can or beer can too, and that is you face the opening towards it. It's a trick. It's a cruiser's trick. You face the opening where you would drink out of it towards you, and then you flick it away from you like that, and the last couple of drops come flying out. That's the way you get the last couple of drops. So if you are crushing it and you create a little rip in it or something, you won't have Coke or beer dripping on your boat or down your leg. Out in the deep blue ocean too, we can actually, when you do squeeze them in the middle and crush them, we work them a little bit, and we can put those in the ocean as well. They sink right away. They don't last long, and of course, in a bonfire, aluminum will disappear as well. I don't recommend that. We take ours to recycling, and once we can crush them, we could probably get 100 in that recycle bag that I showed.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions? Once again, you come up with some really great ideas. I've got a whole list of things that are on my list now.
Okay.
And I think with
So
that,
let me mention the one we're doing
yeah,
February the 2nd. The title of that is Diesel Mechanics for Non-Diesel Mechanics presented by Non-Diesel Mechanics. Okay. So we're not going to get technical, very technical at all. And it's more about troubleshooting 95% of the problems you might possibly have with your diesel engine. So it's for cruisers. This is not you're not going to learn about compression ratios or anything like that. It's going to be simple. Okay.
great. I think it'll be a very useful talk because I think we've all had those times when you're scratching your head figuring out what do I do? And
Yep.
perhaps we can also talk a little bit about how to avoid some of the problems, particularly when it gets rough, and what to do before that. Okay,
Okay.
so with that, I'm going to stop the recording and say thank you again to Bill and see you all next week.